you're watching Freedom Machine and this is my review of the Super Tenere. The Super Tenere was designed with a very specific purpose in mind. It's so strictly defined that it failed to sell. It was built for long-distance adventure riding, not much else. Every feature that was not a deal breaker was therefore never considered, leaving the bike dying behind the scenes of a feature-rich motorcycle market. Where others introduced touchscreens, Yamaha decided that it was enough to remove an analog dial from the instrument cluster. I choose to ride the Super Tenere because long distance traveling is what excites me most. And in this video I will tell you everything I've learned by living with the Super Tenere. First Yamaha Tenere was introduced in 1983 and it was inspired by the Yamaha Paris-Dakar rally bikes that won in 79 and 80. The XT600Z Tenere in reality was just an XT550 with an overboard engine, upgraded suspension and a larger tank. The bike was further upgraded 2 more times and in 1989 the first parallel twin was introduced with an XT-Z750 Super Tenere. This bike won the Paris-Dakar 6 times. The single cylinder was upgraded with 5 valves and liquid cooling in 1991 with the XT-Z660 Tenere. This bike was upgraded 1 more time in 1994 and for more than 10 years Yamaha did not release a new Tenere. Only in 2006 a new XT660Z Tenere was released with an all-new single cylinder and a completely new styling. Finally in 2010 the Yamaha Super Tenere was released, with the engine inspired by the old parallel twin mounted in an XT-Z750 Super Tenere. This time the bike had more tech than an R1, with traction control, linked ABS and a cross-plane crank. There are many variants of the Super Tenere, but these are all very similar. The main distinction that we need to make is that there are 2 generations. Gen 1 went from 2010 to 2013, although some were sold in 2014 and after. In 2014, Yamaha introduced the Gen 2. The main giveaways for the Gen 1 are the analog rev counter and the amber indicators, but in reality many more changes were made. The Gen 2 came with cruise control as standard. Power was increased by only 2 horsepower. Economy was improved from 7.1 liter per 100 km to 6.6 liters per 100 km. Traction control was modified for a more noticeable difference between the 2 riding modes available. You got an adjustable windshield. The handlebars were brought up and back by 1 cm to improve riding position. You got a full LCD instrument cluster and an accessory bar was added at the top of it. Turn and brake lights were now LED. In addition to this, a premium version called XT1200ZE or XT1200ES for the US market had heated grips and electronically adjustable suspension. Not to be confused with the semi-active suspension which dynamically adjusts the setting while riding. The ZE only allows it to be adjusted manually on the go by pressing some buttons. In general, the front appearance changed with some plastics to cover the almost unfinished part underneath the headlights, and the windshield became more rounded. In addition to all these features, also the engine was slightly upgraded. A new clutch basket was added to avoid the annoying vibrations that were common on some of the first generation bikes. The camchain tensioner was modified as previously it had the tendency to become weak. You got a new valve cover to reduce water seepage through the ignition coils. You got new pistons and of course piston rings, as many of the Gen 1 had the tendency to use some oil. Other small and less significant parts were also changed. Important to notice that all the Gen 2 engine parts are compatible with the Gen 1. To conclude on the differences between Gen 1 and Gen 2, due to the similar appearance, the second-hand market is not making a great distinction between the two, and the prices do not always align with the difference in specification. Although the Gen 1 is a fantastic bike, there is no denying that the Gen 2 is taking this to another level. The engine is a 1199cc parallel twin that develops around 110 horsepower at 7250 rpm and 114 Nm at 6000 rpm. It has double overhead cams. It comes with 4 valves and 2 spark plugs per cylinder. It has a 270-degree crank with a firing order of 270 and 450 degrees. This firing order reduces inertial torque and improves significantly traction while riding off-road. The stop power curve of the Super Tenere presents a dip right in the middle while you go through your first 3 gears. This was done to reduce emissions. Unfortunately, this dip is the cause of many bad reviews where it is claimed that the engine lags when compared to the competitors. It is very common between Super Tenere owners to retune the ECU in order to remove this lack of power. The most common feedback is that the ST becomes a different bike. So, how fast will it accelerate once retuned? The Super Tenere comes in at 265 kg. That is 16 kg more than a GS 1250 or an Africa Twin 1100L. Although we need to consider that the Africa Twin has a chain, which in my personal opinion is a significant disadvantage in the adventure world. It uses what is called a Yamaha Chip Control Throttle or YCCT. In other words, that is ride-by-wire. Although that might sound great, the general opinion is that the throttle tuning is poor and very often referred to as on-off behavior. In my opinion this is true, but ECU remapping and just overall experience made me adapt to it to a point where I feel it's just normal. The issues related to overall size, weight and poor throttle control might be some of the reasons that will hold the rider back from using this bike as an everyday commuter. In reality, good wind protection, stability and effortless handling make it a great bike for everyday use. The bike needs not more than 5 km/h and it becomes as easy to ride as an SV650. Whatever happens below 5 km/h will become a non-issue with a few months of experience. When it comes to riding it on bendy roads, the ST is just superb. With a fully adjustable upside-down telescopic fork at the front and an adjustable monoshock at the rear, the bike absorbs the uneven surface with ease, giving you absolute confidence. Again, the ST is capable of changing direction like much smaller bikes do, and it tackles corners without much fighting, making the riding experience easy and fun. The Super Tenere comes with intelligent unified braking system that includes of course ABS. This technology constantly monitors the stability of the bike through various sensors. It then predicts the movement just before the wheel will slip and balances the braking force between the front and the rear, even when only the front brake is used. The rear brake works only on the rear. A big drawback on the Super Tenere is the fact that ABS cannot be deactivated via a button. Older models had a trick that on the latest models could lead to a trip to the mechanic. Running it on the center stand in second gear caused the ABS to freak out and disable it. This trick on the latest model can lead to an engine light turning on and the need to delete the error through a computer, so it's best to avoid this. If you want to disable the ABS, then this is not the bike for you. There are 3 settings for traction control: 1, 2 and off, where 1 is almost not allowing for any slippage, 2 is good to get you out of some soft terrain as well as having some controlled fun, and of course off is off. With traction control on setting 1, the engine will cut off. This will make it hard to deal with slippery terrain where you want to control wheel spin. On the other hand, it will save your life on the road. With traction control on setting 2, the engine will deliver constant power and control wheel spin. This is the perfect setting when you need to get out of somewhere and it keeps your bike going straight. With traction control off, you need to know what you're doing, as the bike will dig into anything that isn't tarmac, and going straight might be a challenge. Of course, another advantage of traction control is that it will keep your front wheel on the ground. The Super Tenere is doing a fantastic job, as it seems to know exactly when this is going to happen. The topic of comfort is very subjective, but overall the Super Tenere is a very comfortable bike. There is no denying that Yamaha tried to build a bike that one can ride for many hours, and overall it delivers. A couple of changes are possible that will improve the overall riding experience. Pivoting races can be added, although on the Gen 1 bikes Yamaha use short brake tubes, making this a very painful process. A much easier improvement is the flat seat mode that will simply reduce the amount of forward lean that comes with the bike. It is possible to change the seat height between 2 positions by moving a plastic part that is placed underneath the seat. The 2 possible settings are 845mm, 33.25 inches, or 870mm, 34.25 inches. When the seat is in the lower position at 1.73 meters or 5 foot 8 tall with an inseam of 78 centimeters or 30.7 inches, I managed to touch the ground just fine. The ultimate goal that Yamaha had in mind when it designed the Super Tenere was the creation of a perfect freedom machine. It was not designed to compete with trail bikes, win a drag race or replace a laptop. The Super Tenere has one purpose, which is to take you as far as it is possible on 2 wheels. It is as if Yamaha completely ignored what the average customer wants and decided to fully embark on the true meaning of adventure riding. Riders like Nick Sanders and Davide Biga have taken the ST around the world. On their return, the bikes were completely disassembled, and to everyone's amazement, the engine looked like it just passed the break-in period. It is a bike that on average gets 3 out of 5 stars, but the few that manage to understand it have ridden it into the ground. Unfortunately, there is no place for such a bike in the world of economics, and therefore Yamaha has ceased sales in Europe, with the rest of the world following shortly. There is also no hint that Yamaha will ever replace the mighty Super Tenere. On this unfortunate sad note, I conclude my review of the Super Tenere. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below, and as always I will do my best to answer. Thanks for watching my review of the Super Tenere. If you like this video, then please subscribe and hit the like button. This is Marco Belcastro, wishing you all a fantastic adventure with your freedom machines.